Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to part 2 of Americans, Romance, and Destiny with Death. Good evening, Albert. You're the only one who called back so far.
I'm back. I heard you.
You're the only one who called back so far.
Yeah. My mom was talking to me, and so I was over there and the bed in her bedroom. She wanted to talk to me, and then I came back and I heard you on the speaker.
Well, yes, I did. You missed the first one, but I did a rap.
I did miss a small part of the first one, but that's because my phone. See, I got like 100 messages from your phone, and what it did is it made my phone run out of battery. So my phone went out of battery, and I was looking for my charger. So I finally found my charger, and I put it on, and then I was able to call.
It was more like 15 messages, and the reason why is because earlier today I texted all 4 of you, and people kept texting back on that global text.
Yeah,
so every time Don wrote something, he sent it to 3 people. Every time I wrote something, he sent it to 3 people. But by the way, Don and Ben are back in the house, so Don and
well,
Ben.
those 15 messages quadruple and actually turn into 60 messages. I have my phone on the charger because it's got no battery, but I think when I have my phone on the charger, it might produce a little bit of static. So I don't know if you can hear a static right now.
No, we can't hear it.
Sounds good.
Okay.
By the way, you guys, I subjected Albert to a second round of my rap, but he couldn't hear it because he was across the room.
Did he throw his phone?
No, he was talking. He called in 10 minutes early before the show, and he was talking to his mother when the show started.
Oh.
But anyway, you guys, if the Westminster, New York guy calls in, yes, he'll probably dominate the conversation, but it does make it lively.
I wanted to say something before we ran out of time about, and I think, is Don on the line too?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm here.
I'm here. You might appreciate this, being, working in the school system or working with the school system. But I found this quote from Felix Frankfurter, who was a Supreme Court justice, and he said, "It is a wise man that said there is no greater inequality than equal treatment of unequals." And I think that's where we're moving in the school system. That's probably one of the reasons why this kid wasn't dealt with harshly, is because they've moved towards trying to treat people as equals, even if they aren't. Trying to, they could have done something different if they had a harsh punishment for what this kid was doing.
Well, that's what what Justice Frankfurter said is exactly what the point is that and we here in Nevada have a very acute sense of that, is that we are all different. We base our economy here in Nevada on generally the uneducated. Those are the people who work in the hospitality and the mines and formerly in the mines. That's where the schism comes. On the ranches, that's where we need our people, and that's where they are. And the more educated they are, the more apt they are to leave for other larger communities or whatever the case may be. So we want to live under a different set of circumstances or situations, whatever you want to call it, because our system, except for the racial inequality here or tensions that make this called the West, Mississippi of the West, this is pretty much the reason why we were against Common Core, for instance, and some other federally mandated systems like the BLM, some of the things that they did. We were against that because we don't believe that everybody is equal, but they should have the opportunity to be treated equally. That's the difference.
By the way, Mike from Westminster is on the line, but I want to make a comment before I pull him in. I work in a school system in Superior, Wisconsin, which has 27,000 people. I work in an elementary school. We have like 15,000 special ed kids. But my friend, I won't say her real name, Natasha, works in Hermantown at an elementary school. They have 72 special ed kids, and she has to juggle at least 30 of them, plus change and modify their IEPs all the time. And many of them are violent. They're from foster care because she lives in a wealthy neighborhood, or she works in one, and that's where all the foster kids go to. And one kid tried to strangle his mother, a fourth grader, the other day, and she called the cops. And the cops didn't do anything about it because they said he's only a fourth grader. So when the mom came to the school, he tried to strangle her because he didn't want to see her, and the cop just didn't do anything. So she has to deal with violent kids every day who spit and kick at her and swear. And that's another disproportional situation that people have to do it with all these special ed identifiers nowadays. With that, I'll bring Mike into the room, into the call room. Mike, you're on the air.
Oh, thanks. I'm here, yeah.
So we're talking about a quote that Ben had just put out there. Ben, why don't you repeat the quote?
It's Felix Frankfurter, who is a Supreme Court justice, and he said it is a wise man who said that there is no greater inequality than the equal treatment of unequals. So
right, and we have
take it how you want.
I'm a special ed assistant, and I have to blend students in the classroom that are disruptive and are allowed to be in the mainstream classrooms. But there's only one that's really disruptive in my daily activity.
Well, now it's becoming mandated, and that's where the public system problems have really exacerbated. First, it was not being ready for the greater influx of the Latin population, but also but now it's the IEP, the special education students that the school systems are being mandated, but they're not prepared. Nobody's doing their job. Oh, I think I said that before.
I have friends who are doing their job, but the problem is you have to put these kids in the least restrictive environment. Now, if they have really severe mental, I don't want to use the word retardation, but if they're severely disabled, they're in a special room. But for kids who just have social or learning like it's called SLD, single learning disabilities, like they might be good in math but poor in English, they are in the mainstream classroom. But it's just like any other problem in society. If they have behavioral problems, it's going to affect the whole class. Like if they have a tantrum while they're trying to have a lesson being taught.
And it brings down
rights?
the kids. Right.
Don't those kids have rights? I mean, you put them in a special room. That's taking away some of their rights. I mean, that's not fair.
What I'm saying is most of the ones, unless they're severely disabled, they aren't in a special room. They're in a least restrictive environment. So the ones who are moderate, they have just some problems. They're in the classroom most of the day, but if they get upset or emotional, then they get to take a 10 or 15-minute break with a special ed assistant and either go somewhere else in the building, like on a walk, or down to the resource room. But
now, is this fair to the other kids? The other kids?
Yeah, they're around the other kids, the mainstream kids.
Sorry. Where I have a problem with that is that if I have kids that actually try and struggle and do the work and they do their homework and it really strains their mind, and then you have a kid that takes 3 teachers to help them get an A, is that A going to be just as valuable as my kid's A? Because my kid had to go home and struggle and read and do it on her own, and this kid had helpers to help. So does the A equal the same
A? Even if I turn, like let's say I did all of this kid's work, the teacher's going to know because at least once every 2 weeks they pull kids aside for assessments, and they find out what they really know versus what they don't know. like I'm working with kindergarten and first. Maybe if there's 7th, 8th, and 9th, and there's some special ed assistant doing all their work, then that might be a problem. But not
Maybe
at the
these
age
kids
level I'm working at.
Maybe these kids should be separated from the kids that are the normal. I'll say normal in that context. The normal kids that want to get ahead and study, and they don't need the distractions or have to put up with an outburst or somebody throwing something in the class or spitting on. No, get them out of the class. Get them into a setting where they can be taken care of with the special needs somewhere else, not in the main class with the regular school.
You know
Separated.
what, Mike? That's what I've been thinking for years now. I just don't understand. They would be able to attend to their special needs, but that's one of the things that I do believe that liberals have pushed on, where everybody should be in the same classroom. And I don't know if that's...
You know what?
The thing is most of those kids, they do get both. They get regular classroom attendance, and then the kids who have really... Like I know if I have a 5th grader, she can't read, she can't spell, she was born to an alcoholic mother, let's put it that way. She talks normal, she acts normal, she has friends, but she goes down to the resource room 3 hours a day, and then she's in the classroom the other 3 hours. But she's pulled a lot, but it's at that for this particular person who's good-natured, she's not disruptive to the class.
All right. But there are some cases, a lot of them, where they don't belong in with the mainstream, with the normal kids. They don't, in my opinion.
They don't.
In a special school, they don't. A special school that can take care of their special needs. But now, you know what, the liberal attitudes and everything, and the Democrats and everything are out there thinking that they can legislate human behavior. And they don't understand. You can't. You're not going to.
Well, you have to understand there's two major laws with the Disabilities Act that, like Don was saying, that made it all possible.
Well, we got to fix it.
It's legally binding now. The school is legally binding to identify and serve these student needs.
Okay.
And if they fail, there may be consequences.
Well, we've hamstrung society. We've legislated ourselves into a corner then, and it's time to start ripping up some of these papers and getting common sense back on the table. That's
another
thing
out here.
That's another thing that's not easily legislated, though. Common sense means something totally different to someone else. I think individual liberties needs to be looked at as according to the Constitution, because that's the only equilibrium.
See, actually, in my school it works, because we only have 15 kids in special ed, and the other ones who are severely retarded are down the hall in a special room, because we have an extra adjacent branch to our school called the Weingart Center. Now, at my other friend's school, where they have 72 foster kids, and they're all violent and spitters and punchers, it doesn't work in that school. And that's what I was talking about earlier, where they get sent to a special school if they can't make it. They get put to a city.
Another thing that was a little bit unfair from our point of view is there's a language barrier with some of the kids in the school. Well, quite a few kids in the school. And I would say mostly Hispanic, but when I got to really see it was when we had a scheduled teacher-parent conference. We were there early, and we had to wait all the way through our scheduled conference time, and we had another thing to go to afterwards. I was actually coaching basketball, and I had to be late for that because there was a kid that their parents needed an interpreter. So they had the teacher, the interpreter, the principal, the parents, and the kid. That took almost an hour longer than a 20-minute meeting. And we were pushed to the end of that, made us late. We got a 15-minute meeting.
I think that's kind of a unique circumstance, and next time you could maybe just tell the teacher to plan better.
No, it's not one instance. This is happening in every school across the country.
We don't have that problem up here because we have a homogeneous culture up here.
a homogenous couple. But yeah, no, that happens all the time, Ben, and it is a overload, a lack of preparation for logistics, especially of things like that. So yeah, that's nothing new.
Well, it irritated me because I had obligations. I was a coach. I had to be there. There was parents waiting for me in the parking lot when I finally got there. And we got a short meeting. I actually had a lot to say to my kid's teacher, and I couldn't say it all. And I had more questions to ask her. And we are, as a taxpayer, I'm paying for all this catering that we're doing, and I'm not getting catered to.
Absolutely not. And that's what I'm trying to determine or develop is a fairness situation. We've got to make our goods and services up to quality. We've got to bring them back to a certain equality that has been lost, and that's why
the problem. This is runaway equality, though. All of this has been done in the name of fairness and equality. It's gone out of control.
But it's not all of it. It's the dichotomy between greed and fairness and over equality, if you want to call it that. There's it's becoming glaring, the difference between those who want and the greed process itself, and what is fair and the determination of the fair process itself. So those are things they're not just bucking each other, but they're kind of I don't know, they're intersectional at some point, and then they're completely wide schisms in other points. So it's kind of a dichotomy that you can't really determine, or it changes so much you can't track its trends. And so that's why it's important to be very, very nimble in life.
I told you last time, don't use big words. I'm in New York. You're going to get me arrested. We're not supposed to be listening to big words. It's illegal in this state. So don't do that. They'll come to my door. Jesus, what are you trying to do?
That's just my journalistic background. It's just the bucking of heads of two types of ideology.
Yep.
Was that big? That was too big. I hope not.
Oh man! Did you see what they did in New York now? To get a state license to be a teacher, you don't have to be literate anymore. They're taking away the literacy part of the test now for any teacher.
Because it's racist.
In New York State,
right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Reverse.
Now
it's reverse.
That's the problem. I was just about to bring that up. If they wanted to, they could they have enough kids where they could segregate the classes by language until there's a good enough language skill where they can integrate back. But they have a problem finding the difference between a language barrier and race. They do not want any kind of segregation that has anything to do with race. But when it becomes a language problem, that's when other kids struggle because of it.
One size fits all. That's their answer to everything. The government's answer is, the car has a flat, change the car. They think that a simple solution is always the best. People are getting killed by guns. Oh, my God, get rid of the guns.
And that's why
we can play the same game.
That's why the Justice Frankfurter quote that you had been is so applicable to this general conversation, because it is talking about the fact that we may have gone too far. We may be going too far, and there are some things that we need to keep our discipline up, and that's lax. It's been lagging.
I think that quote was actually a Thomas Jefferson quote, but the justice used it, and he said, "A wise man once said." So it's almost like he stole it, but at the same time, he was kind of giving credit to someone else for coming up with it.
All right.
if it was Thomas Jefferson, I don't know if he was wise, but he sure did probably say it. But what you said, Mike, about who said that at the other segment about the slave and shackle giving the gun to Lincoln? Yeah,
yep.
No, that when I first saw that, I was like, what the heck is going on here? Because I'm of the Muhammad Ali school of military denuncification, if you will. And so when I had seen that, it was right around that time when I first saw that sculpture. I was like, wow, it was pretty interesting because I was against.
Yeah, that's a heavy statement. That's a heavy statement. That plaque says a lot right there.
Yeah, it does. And
we're taking away the shackles. The shackles of slavery, we're taking it away and we're replacing it with a gun to defend your freedom. Here's your freedom. But people don't understand that stuff today. They don't understand it. You know, one of the best tools, it's interesting to really see what other eras, how they thought, what people said back then. New York Times has an archive section. They limit you for free. You can go in and do some research. And I love going in and checking out in the 1800s, the actual newspapers. See what was said and see how they thought. And it's nowhere near what's presented to us from our media today.
Exactly.
It's total bullshit.
That's a very, very good point because you do need to be empathetic to every era of every culture. That's why
you really do.
That's why I'm so adamant about my not necessarily defending black culture, but trying to make sure that white culture sees the angst that has been throughout the entire system. And the system is built on that angst.
You know something? We're all American. We're all American. And I'm actually tired of we learn from our heritage and everything else, yes, but to cling on to it and to use it to explain differences or anything else. I mean, I'm Greek. I speak Greek. Do I sit there and judge everything based on, well, how would they have looked at this in Greece in the 1800s? No, I'm an American.
Right. Well,
am I proud of my Greek culture? Absolutely. But, you know, we should be progressing now. We go with the progress. Way past this now, and I'll tell you what, as I mentioned on the show probably before, I'm a government contractor. I feed military, and the difference in my restaurant, I have a restaurant. We closed it when 9/11 happened, when the military asked us to start feeding troops, and they told me it'd be for 2 to 3 weeks here in New York. The troops were headed to ground zero. So I put up a sign, be back in 2 to 3 weeks. And we've never reopened to the public. All I do is feed military. So I have a whole different attitude about the federal government and how corrupt and how incompetent the system is. But anyways,
extremely.
From feeding the troops, I'll tell you what, black and white, it's one family with the soldiers. And we joke about race. There's none of the bullshit. You can't joke about it like this on the outside because these people don't have a sense of humor. These people are idiots out here. But I'll tell you, in the military, it's one family where these guys know that they could rely on their brother, whether he's black, white, or Chinese, that he's going to defend their life and he's going to do. There's one kid that I remember him well. He came over from Africa before 9/11. 9/11 happened. He signed up in the military. Akintati. What a kid. I call them all kids, so don't mind me with the kid thing. But he was killed. He was killed, and we remember him every year, all of us, on Facebook. All the soldiers keep together. We all keep in touch, and even the guys that retired. And yeah, he was from Africa, dark skin. So who gives a shit? But with the military, you can do that. It doesn't make a difference. Outside here, in what we want to call the real world, it makes a big difference because these idiots out here, they haven't grown up enough or matured enough or smart enough. I don't know. So it's frustrating. I mean, one time I showed up, there was a mission, I can't tell you where, that the military was guarding a facility. And I would deliver the meals to them, and it was summertime, it was hot. And I show up with the Mermites, thermal cases with the food. And that day for the guys, we made fried chicken, mashed potatoes. I even had potato salad, corn on the cob, And I brought watermelon because I figured these guys are hot. They're in full battle rattle. They're going to like the watermelon. Well, the XO comes out, and he's dark-skinned. And he looked at me and went, Mike, really? Are you serious? I went, oh, don't start. Oh, come on. He said, no. I watched Jerry Springer. I know you're kind. I understand. I said, oh, Lieutenant, don't start, please. That wasn't my intent. He razzed me about that for 4 months. He said, are you going to do fried chicken again and bring us out? Are you going to do fried chicken again and bring us watermelon? So, but you can joke about it with them in that context because we don't look at it the same way that out here they do.
Right, it's not a tool, it's a hindrance.
No. So, I don't know, it's different, it's refreshing. Do I miss dealing with the general public? Absolutely not. I don't miss it.
I thought CBS did a good job covering the Florida shooting. They interviewed a lot of students, and it was very candid, and I don't think it was tainted or bent.
Did any of them know what a Form 4473 was?
They were talking about the loss of their friends. They weren't talking about guns. Okay, I'm not talking about the students who spoke about the shooting in the context of what could be done next. They were interviewing kids about their friends.
All right. That's good that they took that angle because I heard about the rally that they had that was anti-gun with the students that was done on Sunday.
There was a girl. That one was popularized. There was a girl with super short brown hair. It was all over the internet.
Yeah.
That's not the one I was talking about. What?
Right now, there's an all-student sit-out scheduled for March 14th. So get ready for it. March 14th.
Yeah.
All the students.
And none of them have. And none of them have any idea, but they're all going to point to what the solution is, which we need gun control. They have no idea what we need, but they're because they don't have anything else to grasp. They don't know what to blame, and their combination of fears cut in there with they don't know. So
right. So what's going to happen? The problem with the people with the anti-gun movement is that they are doing the textbook that would please Hitler, Stalin, and Mao, and they don't even know it. They don't even know it. They're pushing for the same things from the inside, pushed down on civilizations from the outside.
Right. Exactly.
That's why I can't trust them. I can't listen to them. I cannot do that because.
But Ben, the thing is that it's going to lead to civil war from the government, because the number one thing that the government is going to do whenever anything comes that makes potential emergency situations is going to be go after the people with the guns that they know have the guns. That's the first thing that they'll do.
Right, but Don, what side are you on? I mean, I've already heard that you're anti-gun and anti-military. That infers to me that you 100% trust what your government will do.
That is the craziest thing you could ever say, because
it doesn't.
No,
it's not crazy.
I don't live on a lie. The government is made up completely on lies. That's why our president said it was a swamp. The reason we have a legal system in the first place. Have to have a legal system. Utopia doesn't exist. But the thing is that we've got to be able to we've got to be able to work together. We've got to be able to work. Everybody needs to work together. And these schisms are only diversion, just like I keep saying about Las Vegas. The Las Vegas shooting was simply a diversion for a coup attempt assassination of Saudi princes. So two of the Saudi princes. So we're looking at the fact that this is all an illusion. It's based on a lie, and whatever you see is not what you see. And that's what I want to make sure that at least people are kept on task and whatever they're doing to make sure that they need to be vigilant in order to do their jobs, in order to make sure that things are working as they should in a supposedly peaceful society. which is that's one of the biggest lies there is.
But there's two main issues. One of them was there was a anti-gun march today in the same town that the school shooting happened. And do you know who was there? They were waving the hammer and sickle flag. Not one American flag. All they knew was that they were against guns, they were against white people, and they were against the NRA and Donald Trump. So these people are supposed to. They are holding the flag that's responsible for hundreds of millions of people dying.
Are you
but they're
sure
against
about
mass
that,
murder?
They know what it is. I didn't see the film. I don't know the pictures. I don't know what you're referring to.
There wasn't very many of them. I would say there was maybe 50 of them. Maybe 50.
And they all had a flag of the sickle, hammer and sickle.
Not all of them, but if there's a group with 3 or 4 of those flags, do you think I'm going to walk with them? No.
But that's the whole point. What in the world were they doing at I don't even know what was the event?
The problem is that Black Lives Matter always teams up with those kinds of people. Look at Berkeley, look at Boston, look at Portland, Seattle. Any city that you can think of, they team up together. Same with the radical Muslims. They jump in there too. They're accepted because they are the enemy of them is the same.
Yeah, but the enemy for everybody.
That's not something that's really within your control. Like, I was reading something today about a 1968 protest where a Catholic seminarian fasted for a week in front of a church in '67, and he, on the last day, on Holy Saturday, he marched the day before Easter, and 2 communists joined him, and he said that he welcomed them because they were supporting him. Like, he didn't necessarily adopt their ideology, but he just took them in because they supported him.
I understand what I'm saying is that
that's what we have to take them in. We've taken in.
You got to choose your allies wisely, because it's your ally that's going to turn and kill you as soon as your mission is completed. These people don't know what they're doing. All they know the talking points, and they group together with other people that they think they can compromise with, but it's fake.
But
what they want is not what these kids want.
Well, the question you need to ask yourself is why are you disturbed by people that are different than you? Maybe it's not your thing,
because I have read her history and I can understand what this can do. These people that wave the hammer and sickle like it's a passing fad, that the hammer and sickle flag is becoming cool again. I've read history. I know what that flag has done, what it's responsible for, what the people that waved that flag have stood for. That's why it bothers me.
It's not just the people, even organizations. If there's an organization that you disagree with, I mean, you can take it that way too and say, well, what do you have against Black Lives Matter? Or what do you have against the NRA? Why would like you mentioned that you'd want to get rid of the NRA because you don't like them, what they stand for, or anything. I mean, they're different than you. They have different views than you. But I mean, I don't.
I really didn't mean that. I just said it to provoke you guys. The fact of the matter is that because our country is so politically polarized right now, you are going to get that Antifa aspect in some of these battle fighting situations. You're going to get it.
And they are they're the most idiotic people I can think of, but they're getting money from these billionaires who have a bigger agenda. They don't care about
Soros,
the scumbags.
A lot of them
are communists.
All the grassroots organizations are getting money. Some of them are just their own entities.
Right. These fringe ones you keep talking about, Ben, they were just I won't like say flash in the pan, but one hit wonders. These guys are just trying to get publicity, and this is how our president got elected, and this is how the America's been running. P.T. Barnum was one of the greatest salesmen of all time. So this is how we are run. We've had 3 of our last 5 or 6 presidents, 2 of them celebrities. This is just how it's run.
They absolutely are getting money. They're getting massive amounts of money. And the administration that we just finished with was tied to all of them. Whether it goes back to Saul Alinsky, Marx, Bill Ayers, Soros, all these people have an agenda, and our last administration catered to it.
As I said,
look at the funding for
Ryan has
those
an
are the people I
agenda
grew up with. Those are the people I grew up with.
There are foundations that are actually, like the Joyce Foundation and many of these other ones, and if you actually trace the funding, where it comes, they don't try to hide it. You can see it.
Because they want that notoriety. They don't. That's the difference between the parties in a lot of ways. Is the way that they commit their accounting practices to their funding. There's the Democrats or the liberals or whoever you want to call them, the activists. They get their money from. They don't mind declaring where they get their money from because they want to show on the book that they have sponsors.
I think the NRA should do. Imagine if the NRA did the same thing and started offering people lunch and paying them $100 a day to go to protests.
And as long as it's legal, that's fine. And the NRA
they don't do that.
No, but the NRA they don't do it overtly. They do it.
No, trust me, I'm a life member. I'm a life member, and I'm active with the Second Amendment groups here in New York. They don't do it. I was very active to the point that I was coordinating buses to go up to Albany when they first passed that SAFE Act. One of the big rallies that we had the labor unions down here from New York City with Soros money behind them advertise outright on the Internet that they were paying people to send busloads as a counter-demonstration to those gun-toting maniacs up there. So they were monitoring what we were saying on Facebook, and we were like, dude, bring it on. And we had, I forget, 10,000 or 12,000 people show up at that. It was a small rally. But you know what they did beforehand? It was like 3 or 4 days before. They canceled it because they started taking a look at what we were saying. We were ready to take them on, and it wouldn't have ended well. So whenever you hear liberals saying, oh, no, we'll take to the streets, bring it on. We're the wrong ones to play with. The gun owners were not going to put up with it. We have an investment. This isn't just ideological where we have dreams or Disney. I've got money invested in my collection, tens of thousands of dollars. I'm going to defend that investment that I have in my collection. And
there's nothing wrong with defending that. It's just that you don't want to make sure that you are anybody, and not just you, anyone, is taking on too much more than they can chew. I mean, the statistics show that women who use their weapons are 56% more likely to have those weapons used against them.
Yeah, I don't know whose statistics are.
That's not a good
I don't trust any of the statistics. Just as the same, I don't trust any of the polls that they did. Look, they said Trump was going to lose. You can't trust any of the statistics that are put out there, because just like they say, my favorite one is there are less gun owners in America now. Yeah, they did a poll. Now you've got a stranger. They'll call me up. A stranger calling me on the phone. Do you have guns in your house? Absolutely not. Am I going to tell him what I have? Oh, good. We got more numbers for our poll. Look, there are less gun owners. Idiots. Of course people are not. They're not going to tell you what they own.
There's an average of 3 guns for every American.
They're guessing. They don't even know what's out there. They don't know how many guns were brought back from the Spanish-American War, how many were brought from the Civil War, how many were imported, how many from World War I, war souvenirs, World War II, how many came in before the 1968 gun control, how many were imported and sold. They have no idea. They're guessing.
Yeah, that sounds low, 3 guns per person.
But if we live by the sword, we shall die by the sword.
There we go to fear again.
That's what I worry about. That's what I worry about. If anyone's a God-fearing or Yahweh fearing or whomever, there's that adage that those who live by the sword die by the sword. And I don't.
You know what? I lived in East LA and witnessed 2 murders, and I didn't own any guns. and one was 10
You
feet
still live
from
there?
where I live. Yeah, I
You could
live
have
there.
witnessed your own.
Do you still live there?
I've had people pull guns on me, and I just laugh.
I'm white, and I live there. I was the only honky in a 5-mile radius.
But do you still live there?
No, I moved to Duluth, Minnesota.
Oh, okay.
Where they don't
10,000
have.
lakes and a few loons.
So back to my original point. There's the anti-gun that's an easy movement to be a part of, because all you have to agree with is one of the talking points, and then all of a sudden you're on that side. And just recently, just the other night, the Attorney General from Washington State tweeted that it's I can't remember the exact words. They said that it's something has to be changed, and an 18-year-old can walk into a gun store and get an AR-15 and walk out without a background check. Now, people have done videos proving that that's wrong, walking in and saying, hey, the Attorney General said I could walk out of here today with an AR. And they said, no, that's not how this works, buddy.
Oh, no. You don't live in Nevada. That's how it works.
Well,
no, that's not how it works. There are federal laws.
Have you ever? How many gun shows have you been to, Don?
You don't live in Nevada. That's how it works.
Every gun dealer is licensed federally, and you're required to use a 4473. And when you make a transfer, it has to go through the NICS system. That's federal law.
Right.
Otherwise, the ATF will take you away.
Unless it's a private to private person purchase.
That's a different deal. We were talking about going.
No, not here.
But
not here. You can't do that here.
That's what we have to adjudicate. But that's what we have to.
If you wanted to sell, if I wanted to sell a firearm in my state, they passed a law that if I wanted to sell a firearm to somebody, I would have to travel to an FFL dealer to transfer it.
That's the same in New York.
And I couldn't just sell it. I could be arrested. I could be arrested for handing somebody one of my firearms under this law if they really wanted
to. York.
Right, but not here. But we had legislation. We had legislation in the last session.
In 10 or 15 seconds. Okay.
We had legislation in our last session. We had. What did she say?
We're getting cut off.
Anyway, we had legislation in our last session looking to try to do that. But we don't have those same. That's what I was talking about, regional differences. We don't have the same thing going on here in Nevada that everybody else has in the country. We do things a lot differently, and we don't.
And you don't have much gun violence either.
We don't have much gun violence either, no. And that's one of the things that having the proliferation of guns here does and does not. What we have is a large influx, a recent influx of people, new people coming to this state. So they've got to get accustomed to what the good old boy culture has created, if you will, or developed. And that's one of the things that the suppression of anger and violence is substituted by the need for survival. And so that's one of the things that we're going through right now is everybody's looking for a job, everybody's looking for stable housing, schools, etc. And we're behind the curve. We're not able to give them all of that. So they're really scuffling for the general particulars of life. And they don't have time to be angry and mad. Our drainage situation in Las Vegas could have turned really, really bad with the influx of all the Los Angeles and San Francisco and Phoenix games coming through in the 80s and 90s. But it didn't, because of those needs for survival, they never systematized to anything bigger than just skirmishes.
Right. Well, I was angry when I read the legislation that passed. I understand the main talking points that the news was using, but once I read the law makes it so if I'm shooting with a friend of mine and we swap rifles, the law leaves it up to the officer whether he wants to throw the book at us or not.
It's creating new criminals.
Right.
Exactly, and it's creating criminals out of law-abiding citizens.
Right. And they don't care. They don't care. It's
and now it's up to the officer.
Well, that's their purpose. That's their purpose, so that they can make sure that they have that everybody categorized, pigeonholed into wherever they need to go whenever an emergency arises. They know where those people are going. The propensity of those people to be somewhere or that they can go immediately, control them, and, do whatever they need to. Send them to Guantanamo Bay or something like that.
Right, or take your rights away. A new reason to take all of your rights away for doing nothing wrong.
Leave the lunatics with their rights.
That's why the Patriot Act is the worst piece of freedom taking or grabbing legislation we've ever had. It opened up everything.
The precursor was bad too. The precursor to that was the Anti-Terrorism and Effective Death Penalty Act, and that was of 95, I think.
Mm-hmm.
The Patriot Act was basically that on steroids.
Well, I mean, when you open up the case for phone tapping, for instance, I mean, that allowed access to social media and any other thing that they could have access to. And under those circumstances, they had to give Martin Luther King and Malcolm X their rights, or acknowledge that they weren't they were illegally under investigation for the things that they did. This is just so hypocritical, and everyone is talking out of all orifices of their body, and it's really kind of sickening. But I'm not the kind of person to sit around and tell anybody that. I just go ahead and do what I need to do. But being a lobbyist, you have to understand everybody's point of view, and it's so easy when you have knowledge of all points of view. It's so easy to see where the problems lie, where the situation could be rectified, certain parts of the situations could be rectified, and that we are all, in this, we're all living, we're all breathing, we're all trying, we bleed red blood. We're trying to survive, and that's all it is. And when people throw in all the other bullshit, guys, this is mine, that's theirs, those are ours, that's where all the problems lie. Let people live and just be happy.
Well, mine and ours and that kind of talk has a different meaning when you change subject. If you're talking about property rights, I'm all for the property owner. But if you're talking about social issues you can barely relate to, that's where it gets a little fuzzy.
Well, that's where the problem is. That's where it's the degree of perception. In terms of property, when someone is given property and then it's taken away, primarily illegally, which happened, Cherokees, the slaves everywhere, they're given their 40 acres of a mule and then and it's taken away from them under forces that they can't control.
That doesn't pertain to today at all.
Legal.
There's not enough mules or acres for that nowadays. Not enough mules or acres. Nobody's getting a mule. Nobody's getting an acre. Nobody gets land for free anymore, ever.
Right, and that's the problem, is that there should be some kind of reparation for those people who had those things taken away. Give them reparation, and we don't need to worry about how many mules and how many acres there are left.
Reparations aren't happening. Reparations aren't going to happen. There's not enough money to go around like that.
You know, you can't go. Mistakes that were made in the past are mistakes. You're not gonna get it.
But that was
you can't just say, "Oh my God, I had relatives that were hurt and they were beaten up, and I want to get paid for it." It doesn't work. They're gonna look at you and go, "Yeah, okay, that's nice."
Oh yeah.
There were injustices.
I have an announcement to make. Blog Talk Radio said the show ended 10 minutes ago, and I'll let you guys keep talking for 10 more, but I don't know if it'll be recorded in the archive. But I just wanted to let Mike know. Mike, we're on YouTube now, our episodes.
Yeah.
It's www.youtube.com/flying charm. So check us out. But go ahead and keep talking 10 more minutes. I'm going to have to cut you all off.
Yeah, I think Blog Talk gives you 1 hour for free overtime each time. They don't charge you the extra.
They don't, but my premium got cut off Thursday, and I'm not buying any more till this coming Thursday. So,
all right.
So go ahead and talk.
All right. Yeah. No, it's hard. Look at the end of the Revolutionary War. All the people that sided with the crown, what did they do? They left their property, they left everything they owned, everything they had, and they ran up to Canada to get away. So, I mean, there's a lot of injustices that were done over the eras, and there's no way that you're going to go back and say, my great-great-great-great-grandfather had 6 mules, and it was taken from him by the state of Arkansas. What?
But in that case, I could sue almost every nation in Europe for my family history. I could sue England for what they did to the Irish and the Scottish. I could sue, I don't know.
Go for it.
I could sue half of, our own allies for.
The issue is we all want to be
society today. Something for free. Something for free. Everybody wants something for free, and here's my chance. Here, I'm entitled. There we go. We get back to that entitlement stuff.
Well, it's contradictory because we all want to be judged by who we are in our performance right now. Or in other words, if I go for a job and I say, okay, I'm applying, I want them to know this is my skill level and this is what I can do for this job against the person I'm competing against. I don't want them to say, well, your great-great-grandfather was this or that, and based on that, this is how we're going to make our decision, because that's prejudice. It's judge me. So when you start back in time to get reparations, the problem is you're no longer judging me and society today, how we interact with you. We're going back to how someone else in another time did, and it's the sins of the father of the fathers. It's like, do we want to live that kind of society?
But that's the only way that there is going to be any kind of potential peace talks.
Why?
Peace is a choice. Between the black race and the white race. That's the only way that
peace is a choice.
The black has progressed by saying, this is me right now. I'm a football player. I'm an NBA player. I'm a businessman. I'm Magic Johnson. I'm the President of the United States. Judge me for now. Don't judge me for the past. Well, in the past, we had a certain educational performance level or whatever, or we had certain behaviors. Like, no, judge me for right now. So that's the conflict I see is you want it both ways. You want to live in the future, but you want to drag in the past, or do you want to go back to the past and forget right now?
But that's because you don't realize the past affects the future. What happened when you talk about the opportunities, when African Americans have only been able to vote, have only been able to read for 50 years now. 60 years now. That's the only. Otherwise, they could be jailed. You would be killed. You can't. You shouldn't have done any of that. So
right.
There's a need to show, just like you just prefaced your sentence with by saying that there's a need to be shown that have worth, that they can have this.
Is that empowering or is that setting you back? I'll give you an example. What about people who lived in Nazi Germany, Jews who lost everything and came over to this country? What is their reference point? Do they say, well, let's just go back 200 years? Or they say, I'm here right now. I'm here in America right now. I want this job. I have medical knowledge, or I'm a scientist, or I'm starting all over from nothing. My family's all dead. I have no land, no property. And this is how I move forward. Or the immigrants that come over here. Isn't America about starting right now with your dream and going for it and forgetting all your like?
All right, well, John,
I'm part Indian and Mexican. Does it in America?
The Jews had a system. The Asians have a system. The Hispanics have a system. They come in. They have a support system. People who are willing to take them in. When the slaves that they would go into. That's what the reason for the church, the strong church. They were separated with prison, with all kinds of other things that separated the males in the culture. It was systemic, and it was thorough, and it went through the entire culture.
How does that affect anybody now?
It does because
it does. If you use it as a crutch, if you use it to justify your failures in today's life, then it affects you.
Who gives more social? Who gives more welfare and more entitlement, more benefits, more programs for minority to go to school to get scholarships? Is this empowering or is this weakening people to like we're codependent? Like how many? Is there a Jewish social security system to set them up or to give them properties and houses and lands because they lost everything and came over here with nothing? I mean, we're talking World War II, right? These are people coming out of concentration camps. What did they have when they came here?
Support systems. They were allowed to.
All their friends were dead. Their families were dead.
No, but they had.
God.
They made you
have faith in God.
God, John.
How long have blacks been here in America and Mexicans and Indians?
The Mexicans have their support system by being able to be together. They stay together.
The problem with that is I love the reparations talk.
Blacks were not allowed to do that.
Don,
they were not allowed to do that.
Hold on a second, Don. I live in L.A. Okay, I'm half Mexican. L.A. is 40% Mexican. You know that. How many successful Hispanic businesses are there, and how long have we been here? How many social programs? How many generations? And ask now of the Jewish population, which is under 1%, how many successful business, doctors, lawyers, etc., are Jewish? What programs do we put together to help them succeed? It's a way of thinking, is what I'm saying. It's like it doesn't matter how many programs you do.
John, it's not always the way of thinking. That's the whole point. When you have those Hispanic businesses and any other business that they bank will give you a loan when you attain a certain level of liquidity. There have been so many black bank businesses that even if they attain those levels of liquidity, cannot get loans. They will not give them loans simply because they are black.
Well, I've had that problem too. That has nothing to do with race. I've had that problem myself.
But I've known people, I know blacks who make arrangements with their realtors. I've mentioned this before, have cash, and they won't sell it to them. They're redlining. These are all, where there's smoke, there's fire. These guys are doing these things to the community, to our African American community, without thinking about equality, without thinking about allowing those people who have the same qualities or the same experiences or the same possibilities to get the loans or the access to help. They don't allow that. You're not getting, none of you is getting it.
The problem with asking for reparations is that you need to have a boogeyman to blame things on. And the boogeyman that is chosen is white majority, which is basically given to you by census. The census is what tells you who people are. They're wrong, because if they actually broke it down correctly, we're all minorities. Every one of us. If you follow the family histories back, we all come from slivers of populations. So to blame somebody based on their looks and tell them that they have to pay for people that look like them in the past,
and they're entitled.
That's not true.
Yeah, we're going to give you something for free because of your skin color. I don't get that. Nobody offered that to me, and I didn't even ask for it when I went to open my business or started to work my ass off. And I'll tell you what's stopping them? What's stopping them to work their ass off and get a job? I don't give a shit whether it's washing dishes or something else.
Mike, they can't get the jobs.
They can't wash dishes?
Even
tell me why in the world?
Have you ever, Mike? If you've ever seen, and obviously you've done interviews on applicants, job applicants.
You know what? Well, half my crew, when my restaurant was open, half my crew was black. It just happened. It just happened. I didn't.
But like you said, but that's because you understood quality. The bottom line is that everybody wants to please their leader, their bosses, whomever. They want when they get that job or whatever happens, it is originally to please the requirements of the job. And part of that is the boss. But everybody wants to please the boss. Everybody wants to please the boss when they get a job.
Well, yeah, nobody likes working for an unhappy boss, but I guess I could take it farther and say I like to please the customer because I'm the one that is face-to-face with them more than my boss. Well, I have to build their house.
That's the job. But the bottom line is that when you aren't able to do that, you know, I've gotten job interviews where I've seen the actual and other situations where I've seen the actual hate or derision or surprise for my interview effectiveness and things like that. They would get mad because they wouldn't think that there would be a black person who was capable of performing whatever the job was that they were giving out. I mean,
getting mad at somebody.
Getting mad because
we have a caller.
There's a black man who knows what he's fucking doing.
Don, we have a caller.
Go for it.
What is wrong with the hammer and sickle? Lenin was a hero. From Vladimir Lenin to Vladimir Putin, the Russians rule, even in ice skating.
Okay, they hung up.
That was not a
caller. That was a troll.
Damn. That was probably
okay,
Mueller.
You guys can continue.
Well,
I thought that was James' answering machine.
No, it was Google Translate.
Well, hammer and sickle just means work, right?
It was Cozy Bear.
Well, that was what I brought up in reference to the FBI and the CIA on Martin Luther King and Malcolm X, is that they've got a movie going around. I'm not sure what the name of it is or whatever, that is depicting them as criminals of the nation, and that's just not right. They might have had some kind of, or at least Martin Luther King might have had an inkling of understanding communism, but you know, that's not what he was about. He didn't have time to talk about it.
Turkey has a hammer and sickle in their flag too, or one of those other countries.
No. They don't.
No.
They don't. They have a star and moon.
They get the crescent moon, the Islamic, different things.
Well, I think
for some reason the gods are still letting us talk, so we must be on the CIA hotline or something.
Well,
we probably are. We have for a couple of years now.
Everyone in life chooses their inspiration. They choose certain things that inspire them. I was listening to a man who basically was unsuccessful his whole life until someone told him, "What do you envision yourself to be?" And he said, like Clint Eastwood. He said, "Well, how come?" He said, "Well, because he's rugged and attractive." He says, "Well, tell yourself every day you're ruggedly attractive." And he started telling him that, and then he started telling him, "Oh, I want number one salesman in my whatever." And he started telling himself that over and over, and he got that into his mind. I think there's a certain point where you have to choose: am I going to be a victim? Am I going to live in the past? Am I going to seize this opportunity? I have adversity. I have people who don't believe in me. I have people who are prejudiced. Am I going to rise above that? Or am I going to be a victim my whole life, based on what my mom and dad told me, based on my teachers, based on community? And can you rise above that? I don't know. I think if you embrace something and you think it's successful and it's working, then more power to you. But the problem I see is I grew up through the 60s, and I've seen over and over, programs and entitlements and certain things put together by the government to benefit minorities, and it's not advancing the culture. There's other groups that come in there, minorities, who just seize the moment. They just don't care. They just fight for it.
But you're absolutely correct. Nobody. That's why I was saying everybody wants self-esteem. We were right when you said that, because nobody wants to live on welfare. Not wants to. Everybody wants to have something that they can leave as a legacy for the world to see after their deaths or whatever reason, that they can be a benefit to society. Everybody wants that. Almost virtually 99% of the people want that.
Yeah, that's true.
And nobody wants a handout, but people they have to have some support system in order to get the first hand up. I don't like free lunches, free meals. I don't like free tuition, all of that stuff. I don't like that. But when you don't have the opportunity,
that sounded like just like Obama, almost exactly like what he was saying, and it's easy to follow that.
Yeah, no,
a hand up,
but no, it's normal. Nobody wants a handout. Nobody. I don't.
A special hand up is a handout. Now
if you're at Title I school, everybody gets free lunches.
Yeah. Well, the thing is you don't entitle one school. You get you get a system or something in place where you empower your parents to get your kids. Healthy lunch, breakfast, dinner, everything. If you have to go back to giving high enough salaries to one person in the family where you don't have to have a second income, that's fine. That's perfect. It was almost idyllic back in 40s, 50s, and 60s, except for the wars. Except for the wars and the greed. That's what I meant. The greed came in, and we were in the middle of war all the time.
Actual free will and free market allows people to do what they're excelling at naturally.
Right, and that's why
there's countries that have been in the countries that have been in the equality business longer than us, like Sweden and Norway. They've been in the men and women equality business longer than us. You still see the women going to the same professions that
the women going where?
Than men.
Lost you.
Things like that happen. People are good at it. Now, I don't know why in my career I've only met one black carpenter. I've probably met 400 or 500 non-black carpenters, but I don't know why. I didn't go into a racist career.
Do you know why? Do you think that's because blacks don't want to be carpenters? No. It's because we were
maybe, I don't know.
No, it's because we weren't taught carpentry. We weren't taught how to.
I wasn't either.
We know how to.
I have to say, every construction place I go by, I've never seen a black carpenter, and I see lots of Hispanics. Lots of Hispanics.
That's because they, I mean, but they're, you know, there's a different culture. That's exactly what I'm saying. And
that's not what you're saying, though. You're saying it's a cultural thing. I must be a carpenter because I was taught somehow through my bloodline. That's not true, because I've seen some of the villages that some of the Mexican workers come from. They come from a totally different building structure village.
Exactly.
They use mud, adobe, and concrete, and then they come here and work with 2x6s.
Right.
They can adjust.
Exactly, and if you give the system the opportunity for those learning techniques or training, that's where it is. That's when you don't give a fish. You teach them how to fish. You got to go.
But Don, here's a question. So let's take two equal planes. Let's say we go. Here's athletics. We're gonna, all the minority children. You can play basketball, or baseball, or whatever, and they excel at a certain thing. And you go, okay, here now we're going to give you we're going to give you programs so you can go into college, you can go into businesses, and so forth. And there's no success level. It's like, what's the difference? Or in other words, you accept, well, we're doing good on the physical level as an athlete because we're superior. And you go, okay, well, here's an equality in business, and we're failing, and suddenly it's because society doesn't help. It's like, is that the issue, or is it just the brothers just can't handle business, like can't take care of business?
They can do it. They've been taking care.
Go ahead and run, and then the black athlete is the slowest guy in the class. You go, well, as a whole, I guess you guys just can't compete. But I'm just saying, I'm talking from just a logical, ideological thing. You go, okay, here's the physical plane. You're out there performing and you excel. Now let's take you over here to the educational scene or the business scene and go do it. And it's like we're not succeeding. Not just blacks, but Hispanics. And you go, well, wait a second. Is this a double standard? One area we're judging it by performance. The other we're going, well, it can't be performance. It's got to be their upbringing.
Yes, it's a double standard. You've got to understand that when and Hispanics are going through it. This is what's happening with our school system. That's why it's still going farther down, because the language barrier. We mentioned it earlier. Blacks came over. We were looking for Ebonics. They were looking to get our own language, and we're talking about the Latinos.
So they don't want to be Americans.
Half of Mexicans fail in the LAUSD. Half of them don't finish high school. They watch TV. You can go to the store and they can watch video games and movies. They can talk.
But they don't have self-esteem.
But when they go to class, they're stupid.
They don't have the self-esteem to interact. They don't have the self-esteem to interact with society, and that's what needs to be taught in their school, in our families first, when they're 2 and 3 and 4 years old. And that's what happens, and then in our school.
You can't give somebody worth. Worth is earned on an individual basis.
Oh, that's the way you attain worth, is by people giving it to you. People have to give you worth.
No, that's not true.
Oh shit.
Oh, absolutely.
That's not true at all.
But
that's how this economy works.
If you lived in a house by yourself and never went out, you wouldn't have the capability of understanding what everybody else was doing. You wouldn't learn.
Where would I get the house?
You wouldn't know about your self-worth. If you go out...
Where would I get a house? That's the question, though. Where would I get this house that I...
Like most white young people, they inherit it. So the bottom line is that...
I didn't inherit a house. I bought it. Nobody
so we have.
You're not a young person. You're not a young person anymore, Mike. How many kids have you given a home? How many kids have you given a home?
Don, you have a certain value system, and I want to respect it. But so basically, a minority, doesn't have self-esteem because we didn't give it to them. He's been programmed not to have self-esteem. But the same kid, though, he wants his Jordan sneakers, he wants to be a baller, and he wants to be a rapper and a star and all that stuff, and he'll sell drugs or do whatever to make that. But no one needs to teach him that. He just follows it, I guess, because MTV or Vince is telling him to be that.
Exactly.
But he can't have self-esteem on his own. He's weak.
Well, maybe the black community should come together and start fixing this.
Well, and let me explain the culture here, the way you're born, because
have self-esteem inherently means that you have to have the active and the response of somebody else. That's in its definition. Inherently.
Listen, even when you're born, listen, there's no equal opportunity here. We live in a rigged system, and even when you're born, you're born in a non-fair rigged system. Here's the thing, because you can live. Let's just say your mom and dad literally can live in a nice, clean neighborhood with clean air, and let's just say the other mom and dad, right? They live in a poor neighborhood where there's a lot of where the air is pretty dirty, a lot of air pollution, right? And, when you breathe in a lot of hydrocarbons, from the air pollution, it goes into your bloodstream and it also goes into the baby, too. So your baby's born with it, and it's got that already. It's already from the beginning, already from the beginning. You're not even born equal already from the beginning. It's already unfair. And, I
would move my family.
The San Fernando Valley, all those white people that are successful or musicians or business people, they're breathing the same air. But now here's the question, is with parents, so is it that the parents can't give the kids self-esteem? In other words, minority, Hispanics, and African-American parents don't give their children self-esteem? Because my parents did. They reinforced that I had value. They took me to church. I had certain respect level for myself. But are we saying basically the parents or the single parent is incapable of teaching their kids self-esteem and respect?
And tell me why 9 out of 10 of those successful people never even graduate high school. Why is that, huh? Why is that? Why don't you tell me? I'll tell you why. Because some of those successful people follow after their dad or mom. They have connections. They have. Let's just say their dad and mom owns a company, and they continue on with the company and grow into a successful company. Or their mom and dad, they have a musician store and they have all the stuff that the kid needs to progress. And they literally drop out of high school and go straight for it because they know they have all the opportunities to go for it. And that's why you hear a lot of successful people literally just drop out of high school, don't even go to college, and become very successful. And you look at all these other people that are going to college, and they're not successful, and they owe a lot of money to the college, owe a lot of money to the government because they can't even pay off their student loans.
Right, but I've seen groups of people holding
that. Just people are choosing for us what we do with our life, and if you're white, everyone will give you a free pass, and if you're a minority, everyone hates you, and you have no choice. You have to fail.
It's the opposite nowadays.
Well, you got to understand this, because if you can't understand this, and I have said this before, and I'll say it again, because some people will never be successful no matter what they do, no matter how hard they try. It's just true. That's the way it is. It's 100% true that some people will never be successful no matter what they do, no matter how hard they try. You got to accept that to be true. Because if you don't accept that to be true, you'll never understand.
It is a fact that people who do not finish school and who have kids before 21 will not succeed, whether they're white, black, green, or red. If you don't finish high school and you have a bunch of kids, you're going to be poor. You're going to be ass out of luck.
That's not the case. You got to pay attention once more again. What I'm telling you is that some people will never be successful no matter what they do, no matter how hard they try. I'm telling you this because I'm going to college. I never stopped going to school. Out of high school, I'm going to college, and I'm getting all my college degrees and everything, and I'm still unsuccessful. And And there's other people. There's old senior citizens. They graduated when from college when they were 20, and 40 years later, they're senior citizens. They're still not successful. You just got to understand it. No matter if you stay in school and you do everything right and you do everything that you're supposed to do, no matter what, some people will never be successful. It's just the way it is.
There's risk involved. Risk is the other factor. There's people that are safe and they do their job and they come home and pretty soon they realize that they're at retirement age and they don't have enough to carry them through. But there's also people that risk more than they even have over and over. And I think we can all agree that Donald Trump is one of those people that'll risk it all, but he keeps pushing forward. He might lose it once or twice, but he might gain on his risk 40 times. There's people that'll push and put their everything on the line, and some of them are successful, some of them have to start from scratch. If my job that I work right now had an honest job offer in the paper, if my boss put an honest report of what we do, I don't think a lot of people would even sign up, because he would have to say this job is going to kick your ass, and you have to be responsible, and you're not really going to be happy with the pay. How many people that have
so bad with slavery? Why do you think we're so bad with slavery?
Let me explain this. Let me explain this, because success is not by chance. It's not because you got lucky and you betted on something, or you threw everything you got at it, or you know what I mean. You just, success is not something by chance. Success is something that you grow into it. Success is something that you have years and years of development. If you're grown into a family, let's just say that your dad gave you a lot of free time and support to play basketball, and he always took you to the games and go to practice and stuff like that. Or it's not because, I mean, even if you have the willpower and you want to do it, sometimes there are a lot of people say they want to do it, but they don't do it. And it's not. And you can say, yeah, they're just giving excuses.
You are half right. There's some people that are born into it, and obviously, out of 100 people, 100 people cannot be millionaires. You're going to be 2 or 3% are going to be millionaires, right? And then another 10% will probably be upper, class, and the next 30% will be kind of, middle class. And you go down, and there's going to be someone at the bottom. There's going to be someone who broke for. I understand that, but here's the deal. Right now, I'm 58. There's several girls I can date now, and there's a couple girls that would like to have babies. I make $24,000 a year ballpark, give or take, depending on how many side gigs I do. If I were to marry one of these gals and impregnate them with 2 or 3 kids, my condo's paid off and I'm going to be debt free this year. What would my economic situation be, considering that most of these gals do not have, they're maids, or they make $10,000 a year or less? What would my economic situation be if I don't use my brain and I think with my dick?
No, of course.
Then you'd be where I was at.
You're answering your question. Of course, it's going to be that. But look, let me explain this, because success,
like
I said, success is not by chance. Success is developed over time.
Yeah.
Even if you win the lottery, success is not by chance. It's over years of development. Over the years of development that caused you to want to buy the lottery ticket, all those things that you grew up in, and that made you who you are, that made you choose that option to buy that lottery ticket. So therefore, you bought that lottery ticket.
No,
so
successful people don't play the lottery.
So
millionaires
are you saying the
don't
black
play
families
the
are at fault? Are you saying black families are at fault here for dropping the ball and not making these opportunities available to their children?
That has nothing to do with it.
Because
you're talking about completely something else.
Yes, because they weren't taught that. They weren't taught it.
Yeah.
So
they weren't taught that way. It was an option. It comes from the family and everything else. So I'm starting to think, is this what it's coming down to? That if that's the case, then maybe the black community should get together and fix this.
We're trying
That's
to.
what's happening.
We're trying to. Why do you think the Muslim community, which is not black now, it's a lot of different colors, but the Muslim community has tried to start their own schools and have been stopped. Some of the other churches have started their own schools with some of the biggest regulatory headaches that you can have in starting a nonprofit business. This is
what does the black culture have to do with Muslims?
But Don, I think we're overcomplicating things. We're not talking rocket science. We're talking, this is America. This isn't India. This isn't some caste system. This isn't a third world country, okay, although it's going this way. But we do know math in the United States, right? And we know if I get a job and I'm making, $20,000-$30,000 a year, and I have a lifestyle of rent and car and movies and food and babies, I know what, if you just sit down for an hour and do the math, if you're going to be plus or minus. If you partner with someone who's poor or who doesn't have an education, who doesn't have a plan, and you may go, well, I was young and dumb. I understand it, but I'm talking 3 or 4 generations down the line. Someone in the family has to go with an hour, just sit down and go, I went to school. I know what a budget is. I go to work, right? I know how to budget money for my gas, for my car, for my insurance. Are people really stupid? Are we just...
Yes. You're not getting...
Look at the 1% has more money than the 99% of the people. So what do you think about that?
They don't even want to learn English. They don't want to play in this game. This game is not our game. This is not our law.
Let me answer the question.
People are not.
Then they're not Americans. Then they shouldn't be here if they don't want to play and be part of America. They should go elsewhere.
We didn't have a choice.
That's why 1% has more money.
Well, then it's time to leave. Then it's time to leave. They don't want to be a part of America.
Nobody wanted to come here. Nobody wanted to come to America.
Okay, then it's time for them to go then. If they don't want to be here, give them a chance, let them go.
There's no place
What do you mean?
to go.
Africa. Let them start over again.
No.
Why? No. Wait a minute now. This is the homeland.
You
don't
can't
want to be American.
to go somewhere if they don't have the money to travel. They don't even have the money to buy
then you know what? Then maybe the government should offer them tickets. If they don't want to be part of America, they don't want to work within it and work with us and be part of America, then maybe it's time for them to go. And the government should make provisions and get tickets available for them. Send them to Liberia.
No, good, no.
Yes.
Why not?
If the government can buy them tickets and pay for their housing, they will gladly leave.
That's what the Latinos are fighting, is to not go back to their homes. Nobody, the Latinos know that if they go back to Guam, they'll get killed. They will get killed.
What do you mean they get killed?
If they go back to Kuala Lumpur, El Salvador, if you have a Mexican, El Salvadoran, who's come to America, and they deport him back to El Salvador, and under certain circumstances, they will kill them. Sinaloa, you get them. You go down to some of those. That's the whole point.
You can't tell me that every country in Africa, that if any black Americans went back to, that every country in Africa would kill them if they went back to it. You can't tell me that. There's no way I'm not going to believe it.
Yes, they would ostracize them.
No, I don't buy that. Then they should have their own community.
Well, that's what
they could have their own community.
That's what I was talking about. Florida Republicans are white supremacists who are looking to have their own community. Up here in Idaho,
it's not going to happen. Those retards, it's not going to happen.
The people in Idaho. You got Idaho had been wanting secession. Texas, parts of Texas wanted secession. They've been wanting that for decades.
They're not going to happen. It's not going to happen.
For purity. And the thing is that, again, we have a juxtaposition of everything in life. The purity aspect does not allow the propagation of the race.
Purity and this and that and excuses and everything else. If you want to be part of America and work with us and we're all Americans, regardless of skin color, then stop the bullshit and just work with us and be an American. Okay, then work and get everything else.
But we're trying.
Let me ask you
interference. We're trying, but we have interference from people like Mitch McConnell who come out as soon as Obama says, I do, and says, we're never going to work with this president ever.
Here, let me ask you a question. You ever hear the slogan, proud to be an American, the bumper stickers and maybe the politicians say that, you know what I mean? Yeah, you ever hear that term? You think that term is wrong, proud to be an American? Does that sound wrong to you? I'm asking a question. Does that term sound wrong to you, or does it sound perfectly fine? Proud to be an American.
I'm proud to be an American. I'm not a Mexican. I'm not a German.
Let me explain it. Here's the thing. Because when you're proud, it's something that you earn. If you work hard for something and you achieve something, damn right you should be proud. But if you're born an American, that doesn't mean you should be proud. I mean, if I was born in America, you should maybe say something like, I'm happy to be an American. But not like, I'm proud to be an American. You can't just say, I'm proud that I was born an American. Or you can't just say, I'm proud that my skin is white. Or I'm proud that I'm 5'7". I'm proud that I'm 5'7".
You know what?
No.
Except in one thing, if you travel overseas and you see another country,
you earn something.
It does go back to yourself. If you don't feel you belong as a person, that you are important as an individual, then you're going to start having low self-esteem. So actually, you do need to be proud of who you are, what you are. That's the same thing with Black is Beautiful when it came out, is to reaffirm who you are, that you belong on this planet. You're not crap. But let me throw it back another way.
The definition of proud is something. It's just something that you're proud of, something you work hard for, and you achieved it. Not something that you were born into. You could say you're happy. You're happy to be.
You know something. I've heard this from soldiers. I've heard this from Spanish soldiers that came to this country, lived over here, and joined the military. When they came back from the Middle East after seeing these other countries, they said, "You know what? I'm proud to be an American. I'm proud of this country and the opportunities this country affords us." Then they get it. Go spend time overseas in some of the other countries and see what it's like living over there.
That doesn't even matter. There's also people that came out of America and say they're proud to leave America and go somewhere else and be Mexican or be this and that. It happens both ways. It doesn't even matter.
I don't see. No, it doesn't. You're dreaming with that, because I know people that have sold all their businesses and moved back to their home countries, their original countries, and within 2 years they're coming back here.
Why don't you go to Guantanamo Bay and ask the prisoners that are being tortured there if they want to leave and go to another country?
How do you know they're being tortured? I know military police that were assigned there. Now you're dreaming. That's misinformation. I know military police that were assigned there and just came back from deployment over to Guantanamo. These guys aren't being tortured. I don't know where you're getting that stuff. Because I know
there's evidence to prove they're being tortured.
Don't believe it. What evidence?
The FBI even destroyed
Alex Jones?
But some of the
Alex
evidence.
Jones?
Yes.
Yeah. All right.
No, it's not from Alex Jones. It's not from InfoWars. Okay, that's InfoWars. No, there's nothing.
I don't believe any of that crap. I believe first-hand information that I get from people that I know.
Because it's radical news. And to even mention it here, it's a stupidity to even mention it, InfoWars, because InfoWars is a completely disaster.
Yeah, I know it is. That's why I said, where'd you get the information from? Alex Jones? I don't believe any of that crap, because I deal with the guys and I speak with them and know them that have been over there. It's a whole different picture that I have. So it gets frustrating for me to listen to the bullshit, and there's so much misinformation out there, and people latch onto it. And it's like, oh, my God, where'd they come out with this shit? I've got soldiers that are actually dying now. We lost 3 over the past year and a half because they were exposed to the weapons of mass destruction that never existed. Oh, my God. You mean there really were? Yes, there were. Outside of Balad in Iraq.
Yeah.
And it was the 2nd 108th Infantry that found a
What about the private prison? Why don't you go to a private prison where black people are working for 50 cents an hour and ask them if they'll be proud to leave America and go in another country?
Let them go. Give them an opportunity and let them go.
In prison for years and years just because they smoke marijuana, okay? Or just because
if they want to go, let them go. All of them. If they hate this country that much, let them go. Let them see what it's like. Let them go. Unless they're afraid to go and they're afraid they'll be killed.
They don't put you for 50 years in prison just because you did cocaine. They don't have that kind of severe system over drugs. Right here in America, we have more people in prison more than any other country. And this is America, where you put more people in prison than any other country. In fact, we have 25% of the world's prison population.
Then
Right.
maybe we should be looking at society and saying we got a problem with society. We've let it get out of control.
So
we're
getting
people in prisons for reasons that other countries do not do. And this,
drug
and
charges, they kill you. Look what they were doing in the Philippines.
Yeah, I think you have to break the law.
And that exacerbates. Let me tell you something else.
And let me tell you something else. Let me put it this way, because a lot of people that are in prison right now that have been there's been people that have been a couple of years in prison because they could not afford to pay their bail bond, and they're still waiting their court trial. And here's the thing, because the United States is the only country right now that does bail bonds. No other country does the bail bond system where you have to pay your bail just to get out of prison. No other country does that, by the way.
Right, but you don't have a bail bondsman unless you've been arrested, and you don't get arrested unless you've been either breaking the law or in a situation where
you're arrested for being a suspect.
You're breaking the law. They're not just arresting people just because they have nothing to do.
Oh, no. Sometimes they do arrest people because they think they might be suspects, because they think they might be guilty. But not everybody that gets arrested is guilty. And that's the problem, that the bail bonds only help those that have the money. Those who don't have money and can't afford the bail bond are screwed into the justice system.
So they're victims of the law system. They've done nothing wrong, and they're just innocent victims, and there's nothing they can do because policemen have nothing better to do but to create criminals. They want most people in prison are
okay. If you're poor, literally, if you're poor, you're breaking the law by being poor. If you have a cracked windshield, a busted tail light, bald tires on your car, you're gonna get pulled over, and you're gonna get some tickets simply because you're poor and you can't afford to fix your cracked windshield and your busted tail light, and the cops are gonna pull you over for that reason. And guess what? The cops are gonna pull you over because let me tell you this: the cops are not just gonna pull you over just because you have a busted tail light and a cracked windshield. They probably might even inspect your car and see what's inside your car and maybe find some drugs. And here's the difference, because people that have more money and don't have a busted tail light and cracked windshield are not going to get pulled over, are less likely to get pulled over and will not get pulled over. And poor people are going to get pulled over because of these reasons and probably get searched, And the difference is,
I'm not rich, but the point is, if you can't afford to have tires on your car, should you be driving around in a car? I mean, if you can't afford to take care of a car. But going back, the main issue is
how hard it is for some people, and basically it's literally against the law to be poor, because you can barely afford a car, and you can barely afford to go to work, and it's hard for these poor people. And when you get pulled over and you go to jail, now you got to pay a bail bond that you can't afford. And now you got to get a lawyer, a public defender lawyer that handles 100 cases a day, and he's not going to perform well for you. So guess what? He's got a poor performance lawyer on your side. You got the cops trying to get you guilty for some crime that let's just say you might have not committed, right? But the cops are, the job of the police officer is not to find you innocent. The job of the police officer is to find you guilty for some reason. So if they're gonna take you to jail, the cops gotta find a good reason why he took you to jail. So he's gonna have to find some kind of evidence or whatever. Even though the evidence is not 100%, the evidence is not secure. They're gonna find something to throw at you. And you're going to have a shitty lawyer, of the public defender lawyer that's really shitty, by the way, and you can't afford a bail bond, and you can't afford a good lawyer. And a lot of cases, poor people just end up going to jail for crimes they didn't commit. It happens all the time, okay?
No.
And that's how the justice system works.
That's not true. The majority of the time, When a person, you don't just get arrested and go to jail for a broken taillight. It's a repeated thing. When you get to jail or prison, it's a repeated offense, and it's major. You know the problem. In other words, if I get pulled over for a taillight, you know what I do? I fix it. I don't go to jail. And then if I keep getting the tickets and I don't pay the fines, then what happens? They boot my car, and then it gets impounded. And then, but what do? If I'm smart, I pay the fee. I get my car out, and what do? I actually fix the license plate. I actually get new tires. If I don't, what am I? I'm a dumbass. You know that. To end up in prison, it's more than a misdemeanor. You have to commit a felony. And to get a felony, they have to have specific evidence. You go through the process. I know because I have family that's in prison. When you screw up the first time, what happens? You don't go to jail. They put you on probation. And what happens to end up in prison? You fuck up the next time. Well, if you're dumb enough to fuck up the next time, yeah, you're going to end up in prison. We all get second chances.